like we live in a world that we have very limited time. And we're being served so many different messages. So I respect other people's time enough to really craft something that I think is valuable. Otherwise, I just am not going to put it out whatsoever. I mean, truly, every piece of content I put out, you can sense it's direct and there's no fluff to it. And I just try to keep it real.
Guys, I'm Sid Patel, CEO of Cannabis Drinks Expo and Beverage Trade Network. We are live from the South San Francisco Conference Center in San Francisco. We are at Cannabis Drinks Expo, and I have here with me Jocelyn. Jocelyn is, sort of the face of Headset, a data company in cannabis, and I'll have her speak more about it. What we're going to talk about is really, how to create a personal brand and why the personal connection is important and practical, and can help drive business growth, right? So I think she does it very well, and we'll deep dive into that. Jocelyn, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been awesome so far.
Great.
It's like last year, it's the size that's increased is incredible, which I think is a testament to not only your work, but just how excited people are about beverages. So happy to talk with you.
Super. So let's give a little context about your journey. How did you end up in cannabis? What do you do?
Yeah. Okay, so for me, since graduating college, the iPhone, I graduated in 2007. The iPhone had came out in 2009. And I started working for an agency that was doing all these text message campaigns. And so this was at kind of the birth of mobile. And as that industry evolved, then I started doing a bunch of different things, mostly either working for an advertising agency that was helping build mobile apps and mobile websites, and then eventually, the advertising and marketing of all those apps. So over this 10-year period, I ended up working with majority of the apps that we all use today, Uber and Pandora and Flipboard and SoundCloud and Spotify, you name it, a bunch of games companies. So I did this for 10 years and I watched the birth of this entirely new industry, a societal change for all of us globally. And that was just so incredible to be a part of. I love startups. I love a lot of unknowns. I like a lot of instability. And so 6 years ago, I started looking at the cannabis industry and I was like, okay, this is going to be the next big industry. This is going to be the next thing that I can kind of join and replicate that really fun journey that I had in mobile. And then, such is life. It's like once you have an idea and you put it out there, it just all starts to come together and life just manifests itself. And so a colleague of mine, when I was working at this company called Rubicon Project, he was like, because I've been a longtime cannabis enthusiast. I've 15 plus years. It's been a part of my family DNA. And anyways, my colleague was like, hey, my neighbor is Cy Scott, one of the founders of Leafly. And I was like, no way, I was such a fangirl. And he's like, yeah, I'll introduce you. So he introduced us, we met up. He told me what he was working on with Headset. And I was just blown away. I was like, this is incredible. And fast forward like a year later, he was, had raised a seed round. He was ready to expand and get California off the ground because the company is based in Seattle. And everything just worked out. So I joined the team. That was actually 4 years ago last week. And it has just been the most incredible, wild ride of a journey. And I'm just incredibly grateful and having the time of my life.
You mean as a growth, it's fun? It's been like as a growth journey?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been hard. It's like, this is not an easy, industry to be a part of, but that was the appeal to me. That's why I wanted to join it. And I think because of my 10 years of kind of experience being a part of a new industry, that's already, I already understood the ebbs and flows. And so when I come in, when I look at the cannabis industry, I'm always reminding myself okay, this is a long arc. This is a really long journey, and we're just being born. We don't even know what we are yet. So I always keep that into perspective because I've already been through this journey.
What is your role at Headset?
It's funny because when I try to describe what I do, I'm like, how do how do I effectively, how do I measure it? How do I effectively communicate what it is that I do? But ultimately what I'm doing is I end up touching every department within our company. And it's because I'm our boots on the ground. I'm the person I'm attending all the events like this. I'm, as you mentioned, sort of the face of our company, to where I'm going out and I'm speaking on a bunch of panels. And because what happens is that because I'm so integrated in different cannabis communities and I'm a huge networker, I end up getting to know so many people, and they always come to me with opportunities across all sides of our business. So then what I do is I'm sort of our first touch point, where I'm just talking to people all day long. And then I'm like, great, you should meet this person on our sales team. You should meet this person on our marketing team. Let me put you in touch with an engineer.
You're like the top level funnel.
Yes.
And the branding phase of your company, right?
Yes. It's a new role. It's like
I mean, I agree with that. I think just as a CEO myself, and maybe a lot of other entrepreneurs out there, it's a dream come true sort of in one way, but at the same time, I'm thinking it can backfire as well, right? So hear me out on where I'm going. Let's say the company, you're end of the day building a personal profile, which is right now a win-win. Like company gets benefits because of your network and connections, and the moment you leave, it's all gone, right? For example, and you will yourself be getting a lot of opportunities out there. Like I can tell you, please join, become a partner, whatever it is, right? Like because you were just out there. So I think on one side, it's from let's say from your CEO's point of view, how do you advise to go about this? Because you know where I'm going, right? It's like on one side, if I start promoting, okay, go, all yours, say headset is you, and go. But then on one side, after 3 years, you just boom, gone, bye-bye, Sid, I'm going somewhere else.
I have so much respect for Sai and Brian and Scott for giving me the opportunity to do this, because I'm very aware of that. And I think what's happened, well, number one, it just happened naturally. I think because of, like, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't really know how to describe what my role is, because it's so natural to who I am as a person. I'm just a big networker, and what started to happen, and I make really intimate connections with people. And so it's like what started to happen is people just started to trust me as that main kind of touch point. And then Cy, Brian, and Scott, they all saw that. And I think we just have a lot of trust in that they trust that I'm doing the right thing for the business, and I get that trust in return from them. And so I think we're all on the same page of just having a mutual respect that we're going to do the right thing. But
I agree. So let me go in this way. I think intent is what matters. And looking at your post, I mean, absolutely, you're storytelling your own journeys. You're saying, hey, Adam, nice to meet you. Hey, Stacey, nice to meet you. You're doing all that stuff as well, publicly in social media as well, right? And at the same time, you always provide value with headset data points. So I think your intent, to me, is very clear that you're building a network, but ultimately you're still representing your company in the most genuine way. But it's very fine line, as I said. Like sometimes you may be doing a DM with your own little personal agenda. How do you advise CEOs to monitor that, or maybe just not and purely just work on trust?
It's a good question. I think I think it just comes down to trust. I think it's like you have to find people. Well, because for me, my intent is not. So in my life, like where I'm at in my life right now, it's just I'm in a place of. I think we just should be doing the right thing regardless of what it is. So,
like you believe in karma, doing the good thing is a good thing.
Exactly. And because I believe deeply in what we're doing, I'm not ever selling anything, because it's always something that I'm so passionate about it. And so I think people recognize that, our founders recognize that. So it's just, it works and it's natural. But to answer your question, like, I have fears and concerns about this all the time, where I'm like, gosh, I hope they don't think that I'm being too much about myself, or that I'm taking this opportunity for me personally. I'm just coming from a genuine place of, I believe what we're doing is helping people. I hear it from people all the time that come up to me and just say, thank you so much for communicating the data in a way that makes sense. It helped inform my entire brand strategy. Like, I get a lot of feedback from retailers, how helpful it is for them in like cost savings and resource saving, et cetera. So, I think it's just, I'm doing it because I believe in it. And I think people pick that up. So there's just naturally that trust that's developed. So that's, to answer your question, like, you hire good people. Hire people that have, I just feel like we live in a society where it's really hard to find people with high morals
Yep.
and really strong values.
Yep.
And that's just something, that's the conversation I want to be having. That's the conversation I try to have within our industry, where I'm saying like, hey, let's create a responsible industry. And that starts with us as being responsible individuals and understanding who we are, what we care about, and just contributing as much as we can to our world around us. And that's what I'm doing. And everything else that's benefiting Headset or myself personally, that's just the byproduct of what happens when you're doing something that you believe in. So yeah, to answer the question, hire good people.
I didn't want to pick on you personally, but I think the bigger question was really on, how to manage such a high talent. Like, you're a personality, you're a great work person as well, and it was mainly for, I know exactly, like, it's ultimately we want someone like you, right? Like, it's just amazing, like gold mine, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, that question always comes that that it's just a matter of like, maybe what if she's gone, right?
Well, and I'm a hard person, so there's all those benefits, but on the flip side of it, like I'm a solo independent operator.
Yeah.
So like I thrive when I can just fly alone.
Got it.
And
so you got to reverse engineer that as well, like how you like to work, right?
Yes, and how I work with our team. Sometimes I feel a little bit like on the outside because I am such like just a solo kind of operator.
Got it.
But I end up generating so much opportunity for the company that it just benefits everyone. And I think everyone I work with knows my intent is in the right place. Yeah. So they let me fly, knowing I'm just off doing my own thing, and then I bring it back into the company, and it works for everyone. But I recognize that it's a very rare kind of skill set.
So let's go on, the practicality of, measuring and getting an ROI of exactly what you're doing, right? Like you are at this event, you're meeting and creating connections for your company, right?
Yeah.
How have you seen, give us some examples on how that happens, like literally after, I'm just saying few things and you can touch base on that. You'll send thank you to some people, and then, out of that, maybe one will say, hey, you know what, that slide, send me more data on that. And then how have you seen this going further?
Yeah. Okay, so when I'm looking at I was actually just looking at the last 8 deals that our company closed. I was the lead generator for 4 of those.
Fantastic.
And so, and again, I'm not in a carrot quoting or, I'm not in a sales role, but because I'm out so much and because I'm sharing so much on LinkedIn, people are reaching out to me and then I'm saying, great, let me introduce you to this person. So I'm really that first touch point. So the ROI, we can directly see it because we know these deals are coming. I'm the original source of these deals.
Got it.
And then also, it's like I form a lot of our strategic partnerships. Hall of Flowers, like a lot of our media partnerships or publications, like working with you. It's all across the business. Our point of sale partners, like I've helped drive a lot of those partnerships. And again, it's just because it's like, we're a community and this community is so small. And so it seems like people will say, you just seem like you're all over the place. And I am. That's part of my job, is just traveling and being a part of the community and meeting with people. But once you go to one event, then you start seeing the same people. You realize it is a really small community. Yeah. So, then what happens? It's the network effect. Then people are like, oh my gosh, okay, you have to meet Jocelyn. She knows all about the data. She'll take care of you. And that's the other part of this learning, is it's not just meeting people and having that first connection, it's the follow through. Yeah. And that's what I pride myself on, is like I really try to be great about follow through. And just anyone that I meet, I just try to be as valuable as possible, you know?
I think you're a great example of, for example, like if we had a data talk, I know you, I didn't even know like what your company does, to be honest, right? Yeah. First it was you. Yeah. So your personal brand, you did it, in a very authentic way. And, I'm sure you're maintaining your own way of maintaining that as well, right? Yeah. Give us some tips on how to create a good personal brand. How does one write authenticity? What are some examples? Yeah. Overall, not just cannabis, just as a nice personal brand.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's been interesting for me because this was never my intent to have my own personal brand. And it's something I'm quite honestly learning to be comfortable with, because I'm also a very private person at the same time. I share a lot, but it's very, selective on what I want to share. My goal is not to have my own personal brand. Yeah. That happened as a byproduct. And so to answer your question, like what I would recommend is like, the people that I really respect and the people that I want to listen to and that I will spend my valuable and precious time on are the people that I know. I don't like being sold anything. I don't want, if someone.
You don't like to be pushed
No.
in any product or whatever, meetings or,
But if I feel that someone has like a really genuine passion for something and I'm like, oh, the way they communicate that is very thoughtful. So like every post that I write, I'm thoughtful of every single word. I'm like, try to think like, do I really need that word? Is this coming across in the right way? I try to be as direct as possible. There's just a lot of thought that goes into it. And I am always conscious of just like, we live in a world that we have very limited time and we're being served so many different messages. So I respect other people's time enough to really craft something that I think is valuable. Otherwise, I just am not going to put it out whatsoever. I mean, truly every piece of content I put out, you can sense it's direct and there's no fluff to it, and I just try to keep it real, and because I'm looking for that. I feel like our society, we're just living in a time where we don't even know what's real anymore. You know?
Back on, sort of the actual work, right? Let's say, is there any like KPIs or anything, you have to do, like, okay, 10 partnerships a month or 20 press deals a month, or any such black and white KPIs you have? Because ultimately, all right, you can do all this amazing things and lunches and dinners and breakfast, but somehow you'll have to ask for a deal or close or be a little aggressive, right? To start the business.
Okay, so over the past, I mean, we've always been trying to figure out like, how exactly do we like monitor this and like then understand what these KPIs should be. So we do look at a lot of things like the number of deals structured, impressions, because on, on LinkedIn, it's like, it's easy to see the follower growth, and especially when it's like, I'm tracking every article that I share from Headset and our reports. I can see exactly how many people have downloaded or read that report, and then we track our sales funnels, and so then I can directly see, okay, great, this piece of business came from my end. So we're still kind of working out like, to be honest, no, I don't have like a hard metric of like, 10 deals a month at this value. It's just, there's so much business that's coming that it's just like, okay, we're monitoring this to see like what is really resonating, because I'm doing so many different things. And then we're adjusting those KPIs and saying, okay, great, LinkedIn is working really well. We're getting a lot of our Headset traffic coming from LinkedIn because of what I'm doing. So now we want you to grow that. So it's constantly evolving.
What sort of partnerships, like you said, you did it with Hall of Flowers, for example, we were chatting, for example. So, trade shows, what I'm trying to say is one. Second can be associations like Cannabis, Beverage Association, and so on. What more do you see at the toppest level? Companies, if they had the privilege to have someone like you, should touch all the touch points, basically.
I mean, it's funny because I've heard from a few people, they're like, we actually modeled a whole new role off of what you're doing. And so now I'm like, because I was just like, okay, industry relations, I think that makes sense, you know? And now I'm seeing other people with the same title, and so that's kind of funny. But so what do I think that they should be doing? I think you want to have a really diversified in cannabis right now, because we're selling to retailers and brands. That's our main client. And so for us, it's still a rather small market. Like, take for example California. We've got 971 retailers here, right? So for us, we want to make sure that we're connected. We're selling to those retailers, and so my strategy there was to attend every event as possible, and then join all the associations that have sphere of influence. And then on the brand side, my strategy there was, it's like with the Cannapack, for example. So we started this meetup of executives in the cannabis industry, and this has been going on for a couple of years now. And myself and this executive recruiter, Ray Navis, we kind of got this kicked off a couple of years ago, and it's just grown organically. And it's because of everything we're talking about. It's like an environment that's creating this really authentic, natural connection for people to do business. And it's very top of the funnel. Like, we know we're getting in front of our exact target audience. And so my point in that is like, you have to just be an out-of-the-box thinker. And like, once you understand people, once you understand the community, then it's easy to figure out, how do I get in front of them? How do I really get their mind share? And so I was just kind of creative in figuring out an environment to be able to welcome them in and build trust and talk about what we're doing. Everything I do is relationship based. And so if a company is looking, to me, it's just the most important thing. And in fact, I think like that should be the #1 quality of a CEO. True. It's like you have this, especially in nascent industry like cannabis.
This is sort of a founder CEO role, technically that's what they should be doing.
Yes, it is a lot of that.
Which is great. One final question, how do we scale your work, let's say, right? So we have one of you, now you know that potential is huge. If you had to hire a couple of people for your own team, what kind of roles would that look like, and what you would start delegating them so that you can keep on growing to maybe one day you will sit in Washington DC at the lobby as well, right? So it's just how do you plan to grow, and how does your succession look like?
So how I plan to grow, it's through the network. It's so true what people say, your network is your net worth. And so opportunity is created the more you have authentic, real connections. So for me, that is my personal strategy. And then whatever it is that I'm passionate about, it's going to manifest through my connections. The opportunity is going to be provided. I get approached all the time for jobs, and quite frankly, CEO jobs. Yeah. And I just believe deeply in what it is that we're doing. So for me, that's the most important thing. Now, what I would look for in other people, it wouldn't be job specific. And I think this is, again, a shift.
Like a hustler,
it's a hustler. I want a hustler, someone who understands how important relationships are, and that they're easy, they're malleable, they can shift with in any direction. It's more of those like soft skills as opposed to someone being really good at a marketing strategy. Like that can all be taught.
But it can all be overwhelming, right, Jocelyn? If you hired someone and said, okay, you cover East Coast and I do 80%, for example. Do you start that person with a little mechanical task like, okay, just send 20 press releases every day and start working on press partnerships? How would you, this is a very selfish question as well, right? So how do you start delegating your each task and sort of start scaling what you're doing at a company level?
Yeah, well, I have a hard time with this because I'm a very type A personality and I have really high expectations, and so I'm actually trying to I'll have a tendency to control a lot and just want to have my fingers in everything. True. Because I just want to see how it's being managed until I have enough trust where I'm like, oh great, they got it, they can do it. Yeah. But it takes me a little time, and for some, that can be a little bit hard at first because maybe it'll come across as micromanaging. But I just care so much.
I agree. And at the end of the day, it's the reputation that you build. And now, even the way some other person will do hello or hi or bye-bye is going to kill it.
Yes, exactly. And it is. It can be such like a simple thing like that. And I'm trying to remind myself, because it's inherent to me. For some reason, I just get it. Yeah. But I realize that not everyone, that's not everyone's personality or skill set. Yeah. So I'm trying to be more of a leader where I'm teaching that. And I think the thing for me is it's just, because I wasn't always like this. This has been a shift in the last 7 years of my life. And it's because I've had my own internal awakening where I've realized who I am and what I want to give to the world. And now the world, everything is manifesting because of it. So I feel like I've discovered some secret of how to, move through life in the best possible way where everything you want comes true. And I'm just realizing that anyone can have that. Anyone can have anything they want, but it's just most people, we just have a hard time understanding who we are and what we want. And so that's kind of what I would want to teach, that's what I want to be a leader in, is helping people be in the right places. And that's why, to answer your, other question, it's more about the person because you can train any skill that's needed, but being able to help someone understand who they are so that they can bring out their best talents and then go apply those to whatever it is that you want to build. That's much harder, and that takes a really good leader, and I'm just now learning to become a really, to become a leader. And it's a challenge. How many good leaders do you know?
Yeah, very few.
Yeah, it's really hard. Leadership is extremely challenging.
True. And ultimately, it's you're lonely at the top, right? You're giving all this value, but at the end of the day, it's just alone.
Yeah.
Love it. Just a couple of personal questions is what kind of books do you read? What podcast, what's your day routine like in the morning? How are you staying optimistic, which I can see from your, threads and all that stuff?
Well, I'm a lover of life. And so it's funny, I think some people would assume like, I get up early and I'm like I'm a regimented person, but I'm a late night cat. I'm a creative person. I don't like hard, schedules.
Routines,
yeah. So I wake up 8:30. I just start working, right away. I make my cup of coffee, and then come 6 p.m., my partner and I live on Lake Merritt in Oakland. We go walk the lake. It's a perfect 5 mile. That clears my head. I just can't stress enough, like being in nature and getting outdoors and just like walking. Oh my gosh, my best ideas come when I'm walking. And then we come back, and my partner runs a concentrate company, so he's in the industry too. So it's kind of our whole life. So then we come back, we make dinner, we continue working probably till 10 p.m. And then maybe I love to play guitar. That's my outlet. I'm a big music fan. So in our free time, we go see a lot of shows. We have a lot of like artist friends around us. So I have, my whole life is just kind of, it's just passions.
Are you reading any book on self-growth or
Yes. Yeah? I'm reading a lot of books.
Mindfulness or anything like that?
Yes, all of the, like things like Eckhart Tolle, like I love mindfulness books and just kind of, again, like any book that's like a path to your own awareness. I also love like Ayn Rand. I love philosophy. My partner was a philosophy student at Berkeley. And so on weekends, we're just like discussing philosophy, the whole weekend. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think we as human beings are so interesting, and it's really interesting to go inside ourselves.
I'm loving this. One last one on, have you come through those phases where you felt burnt out and, you had this great 2-3 years run, which you're having right now, let's say, and do you think that after 6 months, you're like, I'm done, and then something else happens, right? How do you, what made you, what can make you burn out? Let me ask you this way, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't had really any burnout feeling over the last, since joining the cannabis industry. I haven't. I've been in a high place of manifestation. However, I'm a little cuckoo. I get it really in my head, and I'm hypercritical of myself. I'm a perfectionist, so it's not one big like, oh my gosh, I'm getting burnt out. It's daily. I have a case of the Mondays. Every Monday, Claudio makes fun of me because he's like, it's Monday, because then I just like, everyone knows. I get, that's when it all kind of happens. And then come Wednesday, Thursday, I'm back. But I'm trying to manage that to where I'm not. Yes, yes. Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds good, Jocelyn. Anything else you have for people out there trying to make their own name for the business? I mean, on any approaches they can take.
I would just say, I don't know, keep going, and just recognize that this is there's no final destination. Like, this is the journey, and just do your best to be conscious of the journey and enjoy it as much as possible, because it is really hard. Like, this is not an industry for the faint of heart. You have more days of struggle than you do of good, but that's just part of it. It's like, this is what pioneering is, and this is what creating anything incredible is. And so, just enjoy it. Even if your business doesn't work out, which statistically it probably won't, it's like, it's a very hard industry, and just a couple years from now, it's going to look entirely different. So just enjoy it for what it is, and don't get your ego too attached to what it is that you're building now, and just try to remain flexible and enjoy the ride.